Oh, isn't it wonderful to just let that wash into you and over you and around you, all of that love right here gathered? We had a whole service planned for tonight, and you'll see it later. Antonia worked really hard on it, but we felt like really tonight the priority was being together. And so I'm going to share a few thoughts that I have in these times, and then I'm going to invite the other CLF ministers to share a few thoughts that they have about these times. And then we're going to offer an opportunity for people to get into smaller groups in a different setting to share with each other. But I'll start with my own reflections, and I'm going to open with a poem because, as Lynn Unger has shown us, sometimes poetry can express the words that we're not quite ready with. This poem's called The Trough, and it's by Judy Brown. There is a trough in waves, a low spot where horizon disappears, and only sky and water are our company. And there we lose our way unless we rest, knowing the wave will bring us to its crest again. There we may drown if we let fear hold us in its grip and shake us side to side and leave us flailing, torn, disoriented. But if we rest there in the trough, in silence, being in the low part of the wave, keeping our energy and noticing the shape of things, the flow, then time alone will bring us to another place where we can see horizon, see land again, regain our sense of where we are and where we need to swim. Well, our lives have been profoundly disrupted, most of us. Most of us are now in our homes, pretty much staying away from other people. Some of us are alone in our homes, feeling isolated. Some of us are with beloved animals, some of us with other human beings, some of us sometimes wishing for a little more isolation than we can find. And whether we are alone in a home or whether we are with other people there, it's going to require spiritual centering and spiritual strength to stay strong and grounded and connected and centered. So I wanted to share a few words about how I'm thinking about doing this, and then invite the other ministers also to share about that. My friend Jen Crow, her house was struck by lightning a few years ago. You see that on the news, but you never think it's going to be a friend of yours. But her entire house burned down. She and her partner and her two kids got out wearing their pajamas. And her pajamas consisted of gym shorts and a Mickey Mouse t-shirt. And I said to her, Jen, you've already experienced the bottom falling completely out, losing everything you'd thought you knew. What did you learn that you could share with us? And what she shared was that when she looked for strength in that time, what worked for her was to keep wearing that Mickey Mouse t-shirt. As silly as it was, she wore that under her preaching robe. She wore it under dress clothes. She wore it under suits when she needed to go meet with officials or schools. She wore it everywhere that she needed extra strength because it was a comfort to her. And she said, her therapist, who specializes in trauma, said that sometimes you can't make the discomfort go away, but you can make yourself more comfortable in the discomfort. So she says, I'm asking myself these days, what can I do to make myself more comfortable during this incredibly uncomfortable time? I think that's a great question for all of us to be asking ourselves. How can we create spiritual centers to keep us a little bit comfortable when there is, in fact, a great deal of discomfort in many, many aspects of our lives? So I've been thinking about that, and I came to, for me, first of all, I'm washing my hands a whole lot more than I ever have. And second of all, my kitchen is really kind of the spiritual center of my home. I love to cook. I love to cook for other people. It's long been a spiritual practice that first thing every morning while the coffee water boils, I clean up anything that's messy in the kitchen that I didn't get to the night before, and then my day can start. And so one of my spiritual practices that I've decided to add is to choose a poem and to put it over the sink and to say that poem to myself as I wash my hands until I know it by heart. And this will give me a way to learn some of my favorite poems by heart. I've also enjoyed singing a lot of silly songs, and that's fun too. But I just thought, I'm spending all this time staring into space, washing my hands. Why not actually do something I've always wanted to do and memorize some poems? So I'm doing that. I also have long had a spiritual practice that one of my teachers taught me years ago, and that is every day, no matter what the weather, I begin by stepping outside my front door. I live in a house, so I want to be out in the air. Even when it's 20 below or something, it's a very quick practice. I just take 2 steps out and I say out loud, this is the day I have been given. How do I want to show up? And it reminds me every morning that I get to decide how I show up. I don't get to decide whether it's 10 below or 75 above, but I do get to decide how to show up. So that's another one of my spiritual practices. So I encourage you to think of a place in your home where you feel centered, whether it's a particular painting on the wall or an object that you have, a shell that you picked up on a beloved beach, or something that somebody who died a while ago gave to you that you really value. Whatever it is, to find a spiritual center in your home. And if you're so moved, to create an altar space. And if you're in a family, to either do that together or to talk to one another about what you're doing. And to think about how to create remembering every day who you are, who your biggest self is, who love calls you to be. So that's where I'm going to start, and I'm going to invite Antonia to come in and share.
That was beautiful, Meg. Thank you for sharing. I was thinking about what I was going to say when you started talking, and I just got swept up in what you were saying, and it was the best thing that could happen to me. As many of you know, I have a 17-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and we're all here together with my wife. And it's something else. It's day 2. And all of the things that many parents expected would happen by day 2 have happened. And wow, now more than ever do I need the spiritual practice that I practice often. I get those earworms sometimes, the ones where you have a song and it just stays forever and you're like, stop it. What happens to me, probably because music is so important to my life, is when I need it, the right song comes. And it happens in the morning, it sets my day. It happens when I get beyond a place that I feel like I can do anything about anything, kind of like how I feel right now. And I'm reminded that we all need each other to survive. That's my song right now. I need you to survive. My favorite lyric is, I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. I need you to survive. Even in this time of social distancing, we need each other to survive. And in talking to my children, trying to get them to set a schedule so that they don't eat everything in the house and fall out of the windows. I don't know, the ingeniousness of children, anything could happen. Trying to set their schedule, my question was, what is something that you want to happen that couldn't have happened if we weren't together in these times? One of them wants to change the front porch into a place of sanctuary. And what I hear is, I need a place to be quiet and still. One of them wants to cook with my wife. And what I hear is, I need a place to be connected. And one of them wants to get energy out as much as possible by playing soccer in the backyard, by walking the dog, by talking. It seems like forever, but I'm sure it's not. And what I hear is, I need the house to be full of energy so that I can feel energized and so that I know that we're all here. And in that, it's special to me because I know that even though we are here together in a house that feels too small, we are here together. We can reach out to my mom. She's in her 70s. We're trying to teach her how to Zoom. She learned how to FaceTime. And we can reach out to friends across the ocean and to people down the street. And we can Zoom, we can text, I learned about Marco Polo. I don't know why I didn't know about it. Send little funny videos to each other. We can send letters for a little bit still. And so I know that even though I can't touch everyone that I would love to touch right now, that I can touch them with my heart and I can touch them with my thoughts. And I know that I'm not alone. I know that I'm not alone. Even though I have my family here, I know that all of you are here with me too. And that feels a little better. I'll pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I need you to survive. And I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and we'll see what Jen has to say.
Thank you so much, Antonia. Thank you for the gift of those lyrics that will ring in my mind and thoughts in the coming days. You know, I've been thinking too about how dramatically my life has changed in the last couple of weeks. For 5 years, I've been a part-time seminary student, and I've been traveling back and forth to Chicago multiple times a year, hopping on planes. My partner, my husband Dave, also often travels for work, and so usually we have our suitcases in various states of being emptied and packed, strewn about the house, in our bedroom. I've also got book bags from going to internships, and I commute 45 minutes to my bricks and mortar congregation. And so all of a sudden, all of this transportation has come to a halt. I'm traveling and commuting far less. My husband is no longer commuting and will be working from home, which is very unusual for him. And all of that has left me thinking about my sense of place. And I've been thinking about my home, and I've been thinking about my community, and I've realized how disconnected I've often been in these recent years and busy months of school and internship and work and parenting, how I've just been kind of skimming the surface of my home, coming and going, breezing in and out, probably spending as much time in my car, frankly. And all of a sudden, I can be home. And so I find myself turning to a practice of really going more deeply into the place that I call home. Opening drawers I haven't opened for a while, opening up closets, pulling out old photo albums, lighting candles at the dinner table that I didn't even know I had. I've been cleaning out the pantry and finding beans and rice and pasta sauces that I didn't know I had, and been planning meals with them. And I've also started a practice with my family of going for daily walks, since it seems like one of the few things we can safely do outside of the house is to walk in the woods. I live in New England, in a outlying Boston suburb, and there are a lot of woods around us. I usually walk the same path every week, but we've taken to driving to the different town and state forests that are around us and exploring new trails and realizing how much there is to this place where we live, this small town, our small neighborhood, that we never knew before, and learning to get to know it more intimately. And as much as I regret that I am not connecting with friends and colleagues in person that I've been enjoying being with over the years, it's also been a real gift to be able to get more familiar, more deeply and intimately familiar with the walls and the nooks and crannies of my own home, with the wooded trails and the hills and the trees and the birds of my own small town. And so I think the practice I would like to share with you is to invite you to pause where you are and just spend some time in the spaces that you call home, wherever they are, urban or rural, in apartments, houses, big and small, and just open drawers you haven't opened in a while. Take a walk and turn down a street that maybe isn't a familiar part of your regular routine, and open your eyes anew to what's around you. We can be travelers and tourists even in the most close to home of places. So I'd like to offer that to you as a way to ground yourself in this time of uncertainty. And now I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Lynn.
Thanks, Jen. I've noticed that sometimes when I stand up these days, I get dizzy. And while I'm sure we're all entirely paranoid these days, I've realized it's because I'm not actually breathing. And it occurred to me that probably breathing would be a good idea, and finding practices that would involve breathing. So for me, singing is one of those things, and I realize that I'm not doing enough of that. But I also realized that my major form of exercise is dancing, contra dancing, which is a thing that you do with other people and is not a thing that is happening now. And so this morning, I decided that I should do Zumba in my living room, which is not that easy to do because I have a dog who insists on being as underfoot as is caninely possible. But it's, if you're careful, a thing that is possible to do. So I went to YouTube to look for Zumba videos that I could dance along with. Let me just tell you that there is something that is ironic and funny about dancing along to people dancing to Stayin' Alive. But what really caught me was that there was somebody who was streaming live. There was something that said Zumba class for people in quarantine in Madrid. And so I tapped on the link and I did Zumba with some guy. I don't even know where he is. He spoke English at the end of the video, so I don't think he was in Spain himself, although I couldn't even tell from his accent. He could have been Australian, but I don't think so. But I was there in my living room doing Zumba with some guy who wanted to offer his thing. And like 200 other people who I have no idea who they were or where they were. We couldn't see each other. We could only see the guy shaking his groove thing. But I just felt such love for this like random guy who had a thing to offer, and us random people who were taking him up on his offer of a thing that was for us. And that feels like what it is that I want to breathe into, that I need ways to use my body that require breathing. But what lifts me is feeling like I can breathe into the possibilities that we are offering each other love in startling and surprising and unique ways that we just never thought to try before, and that we're connected in ways that it never occurred to us that we were connected before. And so I guess in addition to breathing and baking, the spiritual practice that I'm going for is cherishing, seeing and cherishing the ways that we humans are so creative, and the ways that we find to be generous and to be loving and to offer what it is that we have to one another, and to realize, as I always realize in CLF worship, that we're all in this planet together. And if doing Zumba is the way to remember that we have that to offer and that we're all in this together, well, so may it be. So I'm going to invite you all to take your own breath and to reflect on your own practices, on what connects you, what centers you, what holds you, what it is that you can move into in this hard time that will sustain you.